Good evening, all, and welcome to another edition of the Highland Bullpen Baseball and Sports Podcast, coming to you all the way from Scotland. Indeed, Yorkshire Dave is joining us from Scotland as well as he works his way home from the Lochfine Beer Festival, where I'm sure a beer or two was consumed and tales can be told. A beautiful part of the country, some beautiful beers to enjoy there as well. So no doubt you'll give us a wee bit of chat in that as well. But good to see you here, Dave. We're also joined by Dave Jr., a resident Chicago White Sox fan, and his wee dog Toby made a wee appearance there as well. But I think he's away now to presumably find some baseball on the TV and not listen to our chat, so you guys can get that pleasure. So Dave Jr., the Chicago White Sox. They're still battling it out close to the Detroit Tigers in the American League Central. It's where it's at. It's a regular battle. It's a continual battle for those two mammoths of Major League Baseball. What's happening in the world of the White Sox?
Well, as British football fans would know, Alan, it's quite a big thing in the English Premier League to finish top four. So let's just say we're battling it out for fourth place to win Champions League next year. Also, whilst I'm putting terrible ideas out there, next year when Dave's at a beer festival, can we kit him out in a portable podcasting outfit? I think it would be fantastic just to run something live when Dave's working his way for 3 days. That would keep everyone happy.
Yeah, no, that would be absolutely fantastic. I think the public will want to see and hear that.
Just imagine the blooper reel. Wow.
How long have I got to edit that? Yeah.
No, sorry, to come back to you about all things White Sox. There's not really been much of a change. What's been really interesting, the way that things have panned out in the last few weeks, is there's now becoming almost a daily roster move for the White Sox, which, if you're thinking about from football terms, that you try to keep the same starting 11 from week to week, and that might be a thing that goes by the wayside over the years. But the White Sox in their 40-man squad, every day just now, there's 2 or 3 leaving, 2 or 3 coming in. Yes, that can often take place with injuries, but I think it's because we have such a lack of real hitting talent just now, where we're really just having to throw whatever we possibly can against the wall and see what sticks. So tonight's latest revelation is in tonight's. So it's the two night against the Cubs in the Crosstown series in Chicago, and we are calling up a young lad from AA, so not even AAA, but we're calling up a young man from AA who's got real speed on the pads. And it's the hope is that he can be a bit of a firecracker. He's having a good offensive season as well, but it's just to try something new out because things have not been going well. We're currently on an 11-game losing streak, which is the franchise's worst run since 1957.
11 games.
11. So thankfully, the last 10 column looks the same today as it did yesterday, Alan. Yeah. For all of those that like to focus on form, we've lost the last 10 and it'll stay that way probably tonight. Currently with a 250 record, which is winning 1 in every 4, which nobody needs to tell you is, regardless of your sport, it's not good. It's not even good as a hitter, let alone as a club. So it's really poor just now. There's only so long that good pitching can go on. We actually have some good pitching, and at the moment, although we were never expected to do much in 2024, we still hope to have a bit of a bridge season until 2025 and retool throughout the next couple of transfer windows, which I believe is something you may want to speak about later. But the real possibility just now is that we may look to offload 2 or 3 of our really good pitching prospects. And when I say prospects, they're currently in the 40-man roster. So looking to potentially offload 2 or 3 of our better players and see if what that can generate from teams, perhaps in Boston's position, if you're looking at teams looking to make the playoffs after the All-Star break. So perhaps looking to recoup, pick up some names in exchange for our kind of hotter players. So that's where I think the White Sox are headed just now. There's not a whole lot more to add to that. I'm going to stay up later tonight and watch the White Sox versus the Cubs. It's at Wrigley. So it'll be really quite interesting to see how that one pans out, because regardless of our 15 and 45 record, if you travel to your nearest and not so dearest rivals, you want to try and make a statement. It could be the one high spot in a really low first half of the season, Alan.
Yeah, it's derby games. Do they call those city rivalries? They probably call them more than derby games. That'll be something exciting for the fans, and that always gets you going. And I guess Chicago has that advantage of actually having a proper derby in there. If they consider that more exciting than perhaps playing the likes of the mighty Tigers in the American League Central as well. So I love the fact you've got that symmetry of exactly 1-4. The Tigers are exactly 1-2. And I think I may have said that the last time we had a chat on the podcast as well, which was probably before we went on a 5-game losing run to Kansas City. But we have recovered, tied the series with the good old Red Sox, tied a series with Pittsburgh, a sweep in Toronto. Well, not a sweep in Toronto, sorry, 3-1 in Toronto after losing the first game. And last night they played the Texas Rangers, who I believe had a decent season in 2023. But their home field wasn't good enough to fend off the Tigers. And the Tigers did what I talked about them doing early in the season, winning a low-scoring game by 1 run. You mentioned the White Sox struggling a wee bit with hitting production. I think Dave might say similar on the Red Sox as well, but the Tigers have struggled as well. And the big news there is that Spencer Torkelson, first-round pick in the draft a couple of years ago, made his way into the big leagues. I think did he get a few games in the COVID season, hit 30 bombs last year, has struggled this year. Went something like lots of people were chatting about him getting put down. And I think he went something like 14 at bats without hitting. So he has gone down to the minor leagues. It makes sense to me. I was bemoaning on Twitter the fact that the good old, if we look at football, we've lost the traditional reserve leagues where guys might go to recover from injury, guys who are not getting a game might go, but also guys looking to recover their form. And it makes a lot of sense that still a fairly youngish guy will go somewhere where he can start hopefully seeing the ball, hitting the ball, getting back on it and coming back in. So they've having done that, they've then called up another young prospect, Justin Henry Malloy. So yeah, he made his debut against the world champions, the Rangers, last night. Didn't get a hit. All seemed to go reasonably okay other than that for him. So I guess it takes a wee while to settle yourself into the big leagues and take it from there. But yeah, 500. We're not doing too badly. We're hanging on to the coattails of other teams there. But it does sound like Champions League football is beckoning with a top 4 place in the American League Central. So, yeah, 2-2 at Fenway Park. We won the opener. We won the last game of the series. I was at Fenway last year. 3-game series. I missed the middle day, which was the game we won. So clearly, if I'd been this year, I'd have gone to the two middle games. Reasonably good scoring games. Tigers put nearly 19 runs on the board. Red Sox scored a few, not in the first game, but yeah. Back to 500. Pleased with that. 2 more games in Texas before we then enter a couple of series with Milwaukee and Washington back in the great state of Michigan. So yeah, pitching continues to go well. Disappointing, but I think the right thing for Spencer Torkelson. Let's see if we can maintain 500 and start to creep above it, Detroit, and see where that takes us. But Boston, how's it going over in Boston, Dave? Anything catching your eye? What's of interest these days?
Well, definitely. And you mentioned the 4-game series between our two teams, Red Sox playing host to the Tigers, and it's the first game, and that ended up a split. And yeah, the Red Sox are very much a 500 team as well. I think that 30 and 30 split the series with you, and that seems to be just where they are at the moment. But it's not quite what I'm going to talk about now. There's a bit of a preamble to this, and it's the first game of that series, which you mentioned, was a victory for the Tigers, and it really started off as a fantastic, I don't know whether you would say old-fashioned pitchers duel, but it was a pitchers duel. Nick Pivetta of Sotsu's kind of turning into, is he the ace between him and Tanner Houck, perhaps, and Jack Flaherty. And I think last time we spoke, I was mentioning a tale. It was a tale of two Raffis, and Rafi Devers actually broke a franchise record for hitting home runs in consecutive games. And Nick Pivetta tied the Red Sox record for consecutive strikeouts. So he struck out 8 in a row, which matched the Rocket, who did it in one of his 20 strikeout games. So and it was amazing, really, because Flaherty really almost we did outpitch him. He was perfect through 4 innings. So 12 batsmen up, 12 out, until he walked Devers. That was the first Red Sox guy on base. And he had in fact, there was a no-hitter going through the game until the 4th innings, until Pivetta gave up, I think. And then Flaherty was on a no-hitter through 6 1/3, including a fantastic defensive play from Torkelson, a 3-1 sort of ground play, which showed he's quite an athlete. So yeah, and that was it ended up with a 5-0 victory for the Tigers, and I believe that was the first time Tigers have shut out the Red Sox at Fenway since 2014. So that's the preamble to something. What happened actually in the game that that sort of caught my eye was one of the relief pitchers for Red Sox came in the game in the top of the 8th, Chris Martin. Yeah, big guy, and he's been pitching really well. But he gave up 2 home runs in the top of the 8th. Riley Green and Gio Urshela both hit home runs just at over the green monster, almost the identical spot. And this put me in mind of something that had happened in a game 4 days earlier when he last pitched. And this is where I came up with that that headline of the merits of bunting and bench clearing, and which is rather odd, but I hope I can put something together. So 4 days earlier, Chris Martin, he came in for relief in the seventh inning in a game against the Brewers, which the Red Sox eventually won 2-1. And in the seventh inning, he got the last out, which was a 3-1 ground out. So ground ball to the first baseman, and Chris Martin had to cover first base, and that was the end of the innings. Now, as he went off, something was said between him and the Brewers' first base coach, who was a guy called Quinton Berry, who actually played for the Red Sox. And all of a sudden, it became a bit of a fracas, and there were no punches thrown, but it was one of those bench clearing incidents. And also, more impressively, was the bullpens, coming from the far end of the stadium, sprinted over to see what was going on. And the commentators were wondering, I was listening to an essence, so obviously it's a sort of a Red Sox, biased is the wrong word, but they're coming from the Red Sox point of view. And the commentators wonders why the first base coach would be involved. But it turns out that Martin started it all. And in a post-game interview, he said that he'd muttered something about the Brewers bunting twice in the innings. And he said he didn't like it. And what happened was it was a pretty close game, and one of the Brewers batters bunted to get on base, and then another guy came in and tried to move him over with a bunt. And it was really odd. I hadn't really heard about this, pitchers objecting to batters bunting, and he said something that was which came to light later on. He said, "In this league, we swing the bat. That's it." Now, on the way down here from the marvelous Fine Fest Brewery Festival that I've been enjoying for the last 3 days, I listened to the Tony Maz Baseball Hour podcast, and they were talking about this incident. And I'll not do it in his inimitable way, but what he thought was going on here, he thought it was highly amusing that only 4 days ago he'd been saying, "Right, guys, in this league we swing the bat, no bunting, and forcing me to make a play at first base, etc." And then 4 days later, in his next outing, what happens? The Tigers come out swinging and taking for 2 home runs over the Monsters. So a little bit of karma. And then Tony Maz, he went back to his historic Red Sox fan, and he told the rest of the cast about an incident that took place going back to 1998 when the Red Sox played at Minnesota. The game was tied, and I think the bases were loaded, so they were in a position to walk off the game. And on the mound was a Hall of Famer, none other than Dennis Eckersley, who was the closer for the Red Sox. And in the batter's box was Paul Melita, who's also a Hall of Famer. And he bunted the ball, got the run home, walk-off win. That was it. And he said exactly the same thing. Just swing the bat. It just seems to... No, Dennis Eckersley is just a great guy and everyone loves him. But it certainly seems to be a thing that annoys the pitchers. And I wonder if it is a National League, an American League thing. One of the other guys on the podcast said that this is a bit of a macho thing in the National League. You remember, until recently, the American League had a designated hitter in the team, a guy that just comes in to hit. He doesn't field the position. whereas in the National League, the pitcher has to hit, and so they play traditionally a little bit more small ball, bunting, getting on base however they can, putting the ball in play, manufacturing runs, which ironically is how Boston are playing just now. In fact, the Boston is apparently ninth in the MLB in sacrifice bunts, so they're playing a lot of small ball. But uh, you know, this idea that in the AL you have to swing the bat because we've got the DH, we've got the guys with the power, the extra hitters. And I just thought it was incredibly interesting. And I've never really heard that objection to bunting before. And with all the rule changes and now teams are playing a little bit differently. I wonder if we're going to see a little bit more than that, and maybe we'll see some of the veteran pitchers getting a bit miffed by this style of play. Don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I had heard before people objecting to bunting. I can see why, and it's part of the game, although I can see why some people might find it a bit disrespectful. It hadn't crossed my mind that it's obviously potentially different between the two leagues. And I was trying to think of football equivalents. What do teams do that is disrespectful to other teams? Is that a Premier League team turning up at third division opponents in the FA Cup with their youth team or whatever? It's obviously slightly different in that you're talking a full managerial decision there. But yeah, that's yeah. What's disrespectful in the sport? Yeah.
I think baseball is a lot like that, isn't it? There's the more you watch the game, the more you realize that there are these traditions going back, 100+ years, and it seems to be that kind of game that it's maybe, I don't know. I mean, we're in 2024 now, aren't we? And a lot has happened. Yet you've got you've got guys who are pitching, into their early 40s. Got even some of the batters playing the forces, so they've got 20 odd years of experience. So they go back a long time. You've got the managers there who, some of them have been around for many years, going back to, a time when it was two completely separate leagues with separate traditions. And well, there's a lot. Well, I think we talked about one time, wasn't it, swinging on the 3-0 pitch, and a lot of I still don't quite get why you're not supposed to swing on that, and then again, a lot of the players now, you're not supposed, this bat flipping thing. You would never have got that, or would you have got that Babe Ruth calling the shot maybe 100, getting on for 100 years ago? But this bat flipping thing could be quite an annoying feature if you're a pitcher. But yeah, it's that kind of game. I think that's a good analogy with the football thing. Yeah, not playing your full strength team.
What's the bat flip? Is that scoring in front of your opponent's fans and then standing there nonchalantly with your arms held out in front of them and kissing the badge? I don't know. What do you think, Dave Jr.?
Yeah, I think so. I'm with Dave, and I think we all know Dave's probably the longest serving baseball fan from the four of us. So he would know a lot more about the traditions perhaps than us, and I've been pretty surprised when it comes to just how uptight for a nation which is pretty, it lets go in what it seems like all of its other sports. If you're looking at ice hockey, American football, basketball, flair, flamboyance, really letting go is prevalent in those other sports. And it seems to be that baseball has absolutely held on to its heritage. I'm sure there's things that have changed over the years, but Yeah, I mean, something as simple as a bat flip, there's very little that a hitter can use or utilise to celebrate. And I've even seen some clips over the last few months where hitters have been criticised for hitting a home run because they've watched the ball leave the park. Now, they haven't stood at home plate watching for 30 seconds. They've perhaps watched it, and you get some critics coming online to say, as soon as you hit that ball, you should be off, making your way to first base. And I think to myself, if you hit a free kick in football that's 25, 30 yards out, you don't suddenly put your head down and make your way back to your position. You watch. You guys have played football as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
You know when you've made connection, and it can be no different for a basketball star hitting a 3-pointer, for an ice hockey player hitting a cracking shot. It must be the same if you play baseball. If you make connection, why the hell should you not celebrate? And we're not talking about running up to fans, running up to the dugout. These are just men, and I know Dave has referenced this many times before. Hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things to do in sport. It's a game of failure. And to overcome those odds, we're not talking about games where you're hitting 10, 20 home runs. It's rare. It's a real feat. And I think if you want to, again, baseball flipping a bat makes it sound quite extravagant. It's tossing the bat to the floor with a little flick at the end. There's nothing wild in there. So I'm all for it. I just don't think there's enough
I
flair,
I don't
flamboyance.
think you're supposed to stand back and admire your shot. You're supposed to, you know.
What would you do in golf? I mean, you want to make sure you can see where the ball's landing, and if you're going to get a hole in one, you don't hit the ball and then just sort of bend down to pick the tee up and let the next guy play. So yeah,
It's relevant. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw one the other day where he wasn't sure whether it was going out or not, and it just was shy of being a home run. So you got it. So he had to get on with it. Otherwise, he was going to miss out on getting
yeah,
a double or a triple or what he was going to get out with me. Just get a single. But I genuinely I don't want the game not to change. But I genuinely like these old traditions, and I was trying to think of, some more. And when a batsman gets hit, you never see him rub it or complain. The pitcher never apologizes to this. Just one of
No.
the things you're just supposed to take it. And I like that attitude. I like the umpire's attitude. I like the whole thing. But yeah, I guess you know it's things have got to change a wee bit, but slowly, slowly.
I think what we'll watch for is the guy watching the ball and what percentage of them go out of the park, because I'm going to put my money on these guys are good and they know when it's going out to the
Oh
park.
yeah.
If they're not, if they're in two minds, it's either going to get caught or it's going to be an inside the park double, triple, whatever. So yeah, they know what they're doing. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
So I know there's quite a lot coming up for the assorted team. How about yourself, Alan? What's next on the agenda for you?
Yeah, I'm making a wee trip this weekend uh, over to the US of A. Going to watch a bat and ball game. It's my main source of my trip. The US Open, US Open golf. So I'm working my way through the four majors, and I'll do the Grand Slam one day. For anyone listening, I'm watching, not competing, but nobody was really going to ask that question anyway, were they? But exciting to be doing that on the back of another great Scottish sporting triumph with Bob McIntyre winning the Canadian Open at the weekend, getting himself in the top 60 in the world, which qualifies him for the US Open when I'm going to be there at Pinehurst, North Carolina. He's actually in the top 40 in the world now as well. So very much looking forward to that. And staying in North Carolina, I will be in Durham, the home of the mighty Durham Bulls. So yeah, I've been watching the movie, get myself in the mood for that, and I'll be heading down the Durham Bull Athletic Park, and I'm going to see the Charlotte Knights. So there's a chap, Luis Robert Jr., playing there. So is he dropped down to AAA? Is he on injury rehab, or what's his story there just now, Dave?
He's on injury rehab, and I've bad news for you.
Oh, it's not going
So
well.
no, no, it's
It's
good
going
news
well
for
for
me.
him.
Yeah, so he's been injured for quite some time, and he's only recently been making his kind of rehab down in AAA. However, there has been word that he'll make his way back potentially even
Good for him.
tonight against the
Right.
Cubs. So I would have thought if he doesn't make this Cubs series in the next 2 nights, there's a really strong chance that it'll be the series after that. So you may just miss him. And it's a
Cool.
shame because he is an absolute breakout star, Alan.
Cool. But to be honest, the Durham Bulls, I guess really my main wish there is to see Ripken, not Carl Ripken, but Ripken the Bat Dog. We were talking about bat flips there as well, but the Durham Bulls rather than have a bat boy, they have a bat dog. In fact, I saw on Twitter today that Ripken was practicing picking up golf clubs with the US Open in North Carolina next week as well. So this dog does it all. He does the tee when they play American football, the kickoff with the ball on the tee, and Ripken goes out and gets it. So yeah, my dog. I think if I let him anywhere near something like that, he would go and pick it up and run away as fast as he could to play and chew on it himself. So I will go and get some training tips as well as seeing the bat dog as well. So that's exciting. And yeah, unfortunately, Richard can't join us tonight. I know he's got stuff on as well. I think he's on some travels as well. But you guys are also making the trip. You're not doing minor league baseball, though. You're going to go and do major league baseball. So what's up, guys?
So it's that time of year again, Alan, when we make our way down to London. I think it's you seem to be ditching us more and more every year, just big game hunter.
Yeah.
So Dave and I will take in a couple of games this year. It's the Phillies and the Mets in quite a rivalry. I don't know if Dave's got anything to kind of pick up on the series just now, but something that they released this week is the first pitches will be thrown out this coming weekend with Matthew Broderick on Saturday. He of Ferris Bueller, which is a fantastic Chicago film. And on Sunday it'll be Rob McElhenney, who may be a bit more familiar to the UK sporting audience these last few years with his co-ownership of Wrexham alongside Ryan Reynolds. So he's quite an entertaining character. He's made some good TV shows over the year. But I think Dave will be in London a little while longer than I. I'll be joining him Friday evening. But we're looking forward to it. Dave, any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, we've just heading down Friday morning, so we'll be there in the afternoon. But we'll maybe get the fridge stocked for you when you arrive, Dave. Yeah, we'll have to have a wee chat wider this on arrangements, but I am looking forward to it. I mean, I'm not really fully up with the rivalry with the Phillies and the Mets. Obviously, if you go back to our first one, MLB London, was it 2019? And it was the Red Sox and the Yankees, which is probably one of the most famous rivalries in sports, never mind just baseball. And then we had the Cubs and the Cubs, didn't we, last year? So this promises to be quite interesting. On the face of it, the Phillies got the joint best record in baseball currently, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think we talked about them. They're 42-19, whereas the Mets, who have not been shy in spending the cash, they're actually 10 games under 500. But they're not completely out of contention. They're only 4 games back in the wild card. They're a National League team, so I think they've still got quite a lot to play for. And a bit interesting. There's a few players that I'd like to pick out. I think we mentioned one of my favorite nicknames, Polar Bear Pete, on first base for the Mets. He's a home run derby expert in the and so I'm looking forward to seeing him. And the Phillies have got plenty of good hitters. Schwartz, who I really liked when he was at the Red Sox. Bryce Harper, the catcher. I don't know a great deal about the pitchers for the Mets, but the Phillies have got Zach Wheeler. Like to see him pitching. I don't think I think it's just a little bit too far out for the prospective starters to be up yet, but it's gonna be a great experience. It really is a good show, isn't it? I haven't checked the weather today actually. Hopefully things are gonna be okay from that point of view. I wouldn't mind trying out the fan zone. Have you looked into that, Dave? The thing that's over at Trafalgar Square. Maybe
I've
we could
not
go there. Maybe we could
not
go
yet.
there Friday night. But what time do you get in?
I'll check that out. But
Yeah,
yes, it's something worth looking at.
yeah, potential. I'll have a look into it and see. And there's always our favourite London brewery, the Crate Brewery, which I think I've got a tab behind the bar for that actually.
Yeah, there's a few good bars you've frequented round about the West Ham Stadium as well, and you're becoming locals and good knowledge there in the grounds. There's obviously in a football stadium as well, and it's they do a good job transforming it. I'm always when I'm sat there, I can't really work out where I am if I was at a football game. It looks brilliant.
I was just looking at some of the pitching, as Dave mentioned. We weren't too familiar with the Mets. Just a couple of names that jump out. Sean Manaea, who his name rings a bell. He's been pretty good over the years. Jose Quintana, I think, was at the White Sox for a while. But three names that I do recognise. Luis Severino, I think he spent some time with the Yankees. But you've also got, I'm sure it's two ex-Boston guys, Dave, Jake Diekman and Adam Ottavino.
Yeah.
Those names ring a bell. Yeah, so there's always familiar names there.
A lot of the Phillies players' name ring a bell as well.
Cracked bell, yeah. Not a good one. So I think that the Mets will be, looking to sort of pick up on their season because, as I say, they're 10 games under 500, but not completely out of it. And I think they're the sort of organization who, the trade deadline will not be a million miles. I know it's the end of July, but teams tend to start thinking about where they are in the lead up to the All-Star game, which is somewhere about the middle of July, isn't it? So I think if you're in contention then, and I would argue that, if you're 2 or 3 games out of the wild card spot, then a club like the Mets might be looking to add a little bit of quality to their roster for the run-in. Any much worse, and they might be having second thoughts. But it's full steam ahead for the Phillies, isn't it?
Do the Mets have a good DH, Dave?
Oh no, yeah, of course. Is it the man, JD?
It's your old pal, JD Martinez.
Yes, I totally forgot about that, and I did see something earlier today when I was having a look into what we might talk about, and that's just jogged my memory because if on the odd chance that the Red Sox were in contention, they're a 500 team, so they're not too far away, but they've got some tough opponents coming up. The Yankees are coming into town, so they're playing the Braves as well next, I think tonight. So that could easily go downhill. But I think I was hearing that they could really do with adding a right-handed batter to their lineup. And I saw JD Martinez's name suggested that he might come back to Red Sox if they were a buying team. But it could equally go the other way. And if they were a selling team, then you might find yourself losing someone like Nick Pivetta. He could be quite attractive to teams in contention. Even the closer Kenley Jansen. So yeah, really, all there's a lot hinges on the next few weeks, which way your organization's gonna go.
Yeah, I was interested in talking to you about the trade deadline and that because it's again, I suppose watching Scottish football, we've got our transfer windows. So obviously one during the close season, which we're in just now, and we then get a month transfer window in January. I don't know if it's the full month of January, but roughly round about there. So it's intrigued. If I look at this, the Tigers have always got Tarek Skubal, and there's talk of Tarek as a Cy Young contender. I think he did lose. Did he lose a game against Boston? Possibly. I'm not sure if he got the official loss, but he's got his ERA this week. I noticed he got back under 2. He's firing on all cylinders as the Tigers starting pitchers seem to be doing. But all of a sudden we've entered into this chat about he's the strongest piece of the Tigers franchise team, so he's the guy we would then look to trade. Now, if you look at Ross County in the Scottish Premiership as one of the teams who'll finish towards the bottom of the league, if they unearth a superstar for whatever reason, in simple terms, he's not going to stay at Ross County. He's going to come to the end of his contract and he's going to go and sign a big contract. Or if County have got the right deal in place for him, they'll sell him mid-contract and cash in for some money. And there's an argument, having watched the Tigers for a few years now, they occupy similar positions in the Major League Baseball towards the bottom. But I go back to the theory of every team theoretically is going to have a chance of winning. Every team is going through a rebuild. The poor teams get their top draft picks in and come through. So I'm just a little confused. The Tigers are now in a situation, got a few good starting pitchers. So let's get rid of our absolute best guy who's probably only going to go on and do better. And then let's try and trade him for some hot bats that'll come in because we're struggling with bats. Does it make sense that you get rid of a guy who's that good? Does it make sense because he only plays 1 in 5 games? So he's potentially got less influence or relevance there. Does it become, do you think, we can go and get 2 or 3 great guys, great batters in for him as well and get some more prospects? How long does a rebuild go on? Do the Tigers accept that they're not really moving towards a winning playoff team? It's just a very different situation to what we're used to. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts or perspectives on that.
Yeah, you have to ask yourself what is, and I'm getting this again from the podcast I listened to, what, it's Tony Myers kind of was asking what identity, what is the Red Sox current identity? You go back to 2018 and they won the World Series. They're the number 1 payroll in baseball. So they were a championship-driven team. They were going out to buy players and add them to their roster, to win championships, not just be competitive. You get other teams. You would say now those teams are the Dodgers, the Yankees. They've got the prime talent, the best players. Some of the best players in the game. And they're looking for championships. Other teams, they want to be competitive, get to the playoffs, and as I said last time, if you're in it, you're in it. And you've got a chance. But for a lot of the teams, then you're talking about building, aren't you? And if you're not going to be competitive this year, and you have got someone like Scoops, who has got value in the market, then some organizations, possibly the Ties, they might say, well, actually, we can get two or three really good prospects for this guy, which, who might, by prospects, I mean guys that are probably still in the minor leagues for other teams. So you may have a team like the Mets who need, a top class starting pitcher, and they've got two or three guys in the AAA who are going to be potential stars in the next year or two. And if you're the Tigers, you might say, okay, we'll take those three, and we'll try and they may have another pitcher coming through who could take over. It's almost counterintuitive to us, isn't it, as football fans, because we've got a completely different setup. But what you said, what the problem for our good teams is, as you say, as soon as one of the weird teams gets a start, it's not long before the top teams, and we know who they are in Scotland, will come in straight away, and they don't trade. They just
Money, yeah.
either buy them off you or entice them away in other ways. I mean, it's a totally different system, but once you start understanding what's going on in baseball, you can see what's happening, and it is, from a Red Sox fan's point of view, you had all these years when we didn't win a championship for 86, a World Series for 86 years. Then you got the new ownership coming in, and straight away they started putting money into the team. Paid off and they've won 4 championships this century. But I heard somebody saying that it's almost as if now the Red Sox is just part of their portfolio. They've got Liverpool, they've got uh they've got them. Have they got a hockey team or a basketball team? Pittsburgh, yeah. And the trophies are on the shelf, so it's almost like they don't need to try anymore. And it's very frustrating from a Red Sox fan's point of view. And what you've got is a great manager, Alex Cora, I think he's coming out of his contracts at the end of this season, and you just signed Devers to a 300 million, $30 million a year deal, and it's almost like they're too good for the team. If they're not going to add to this. So the concern is that Cora might be away, and eventually somebody, they might trade Devers. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to
But
deal.
also, yeah, I don't know. It's not very necessarily football related, but one of the fascinating things with the Detroit Tigers as well is it smacks of Justin Verlander as well. And obviously Justin trade brought Daz Cameron to Detroit, which was a boon for myself. But it's something that Tigers love the guy. Tigers fans love the guy, but he's been away winning World Series rings elsewhere, and it just sort of sounds, yeah. But yeah, money. So I don't, yeah. Dave Jr., I don't know if you had anything to add on that. I know you're obviously you're demonstrating your football knowledge these days well.
It's yeah, thanks. The only thing I can think of, and you guys have covered it off perfectly, but perhaps that is the beauty of baseball with the trade system, in that you do get year on year completely different World Series finalists and winners, unlike Scottish football, English football, where it's the same people on top. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the exact question you posed, Alan, was, but I kind of come back to the way that the trade system works. And yes, it's going to be frustrating as a Tigers fan. You see guys go out the door, but ultimately, Verlander could have went elsewhere and had a stinker. He
Yeah.
could have became injured. He might not have became the pitcher he became. And you might have received 2 or 3 fantastic prospects that go on to make
Yeah.
up your entire outfield for years to come. I think Dave used the word earlier. It's a bit of insight. It's a little bit of hit and miss, if you excuse the pun. But yeah, it's a
Pretty
good
much, yeah.
system. It works at different times. It'll hopefully work for the White Sox this year. Unfortunately, although the Tigers started well, you may have to use it to your advantage. Should you receive some good offers for Scoobs.
Yeah. We'd love to see him in August, but yeah, that's another thing. So go on, show us your trophy and tell us a wee bit about your new piece of hardware you have in the house, young Dave.
So for those of you who do not follow Alan's charity, Emma Cameron Foundation, which there's lots and lots of literature online. I don't think we've covered it too much in the podcast, Alan.
Yeah.
And I think out of the 3 of us, you might be the better person to cover off the actual charity itself.
You tell us about your trophy.
Yeah, but I mean, three times a year, Alan hosts particularly big ticket events which work towards the charity and funding the fantastic, just the wonderful things that the charity do for people out there that have been through these awful things. The 3 showpieces are the kind of golf day, the Cayley, which Dave might be in a better position to talk about, and the football quiz. So the football quiz is put together once a year. One of our friends, Martin, who is an absolute genius of a man, he puts together a wonderful evening. And I know that, Alan, you'd talk about the sponsors of the evening as well, who really help out. But it's just really full of, a couple of hundred mainly men getting together. And that was mainly men, not manly men, because
Definitely not.
It's quite a wide range. And we just all compete over this when was the first one? It does tell me in the back. 2012.
Yeah.
So it's been running for well over a decade now. It's a great staple in everyone's year. And myself and my team, it's the first time that we've ever won. So a couple of boys that we all know, Ali, Bobby, and Adam. And we got ourselves together. I think we came 5th last year. Roughly about 30 teams, Alan. Would that be fair?
Yep.
And this year we managed to kind of take it up a notch and bring the trophy home where it belongs. A bit like JD Martinez making his way back to the Green Monster, where it belongs. And so we'll carry the trophy around for the next 12 months. It might be too heavy to take to Chicago, to take to London, but it'll find pride of place in our homes over the coming 12 months.
Delighted you won it, and a wee bit about the charity, the Emma Cameron Foundation. So named after my daughter, who she passed away in 2011, bone cancer. We've got a charity. We raise funds for children with cancer and their families. We raise about 60,000-70,000 pound a year. We've raised over 800,000 pound, which for our American listeners will be over $1 million. And we're not here to cure cancer. We're here to try to make kids who are ill and their families' lives a wee bit better. And we have some fun along the way. And good fun was had at the home of Partick Thistle Football Club on Friday, which has been our regular venue. I don't change things in life. I stick to what works well and what does well. And the biggest change we've probably had in the quiz was that Martin, I think, must have won it for about the first 4 or 5 years. I think one year none of his teammates turned up and he won it on his own, which was the point he realised that he really should become our perfect quiz master. And he does a great job. What we'll do actually is there's a couple of picture rounds. So I will get the charity social media administrator to put them on on the old social media, and we'll
I
share
thought
them.
you're going to suggest it for this podcast, which I'm not sure how that works. But
Yeah. Aye. Well, yeah, we are social media experts, Dave. I'm sure we'll manage to figure all that out. So we should maybe baseball quiz. Yeah, how are we going to get how many? We could pull together some answer smash for baseball. There's a good one.
Yeah, well, if do you get the MLB morning lineup
Yeah,
email?
yeah,
If you go to the bottom of that, they started a few months ago, maybe last year. They started there's a MLB trivia quiz on everyone, and some of them are absolutely fantastic. Even for people like us who have, not a in-depth knowledge of the game, but some of them are sort of multiple choice and straight choices between players, so you've got the answers in front of you. But they're pretty good, so maybe we could utilize some of those. Yeah, I'll have a wee think about it.
yeah. No, I'm gonna. Yeah, my mind's already racing on the answer smash. I'm thinking there's a fantastic selection of names in Major League Baseball. That must beat a lot of Scottish footballer names as well. So, yeah, something to look forward to, and well done. We'll report in. I'm going to miss the first day of the Chicago trip with the golf day. I'm the only golfer in the group, but yeah, you might see us in our kilts in October at the Cayley as well. So we'll look forward to that. And once again, importantly, thank you for listening, everyone. We've hoped you've enjoyed having a little bit of banter with ourselves as we've gone through the world of Major League Baseball, according to us Scottish football fans. So we'll catch up the next time.